Are you dealing with sciatica, pain that radiates from your low back all the way down the leg? Make sure you're not doing this mistake, stretching your hamstrings. In today's video, I'm gonna show you why stretching your hamstrings is the worst thing you wanna do with sciatica. And rather, I'm gonna give you 3 things that you can do to relieve your sciatic pain instead. Ready? Let's get after it. So your sciatic nerve exits out of your low back and runs through the posterior part of your glute and down the back side of your leg. And if it's impinged either on the low back with a facet joint, a bulging disc, or in the piriformis region of your glute, it can create pain anywhere around its track. So today, let's first understand, are you dealing with sciatica and what should you do to fix it, not stretching your hamstrings? So the first thing I do with a lot of my patients who are dealing with this nerve-like symptom is to see, is this really sciatica? So one thing I'll have them do is kick out one leg, pull their toes back, and then drop their head. This is called the slump test. Now, if you think about your nerves are like a long rubber band that run all the way down your leg. In this position where we're tucking back and dropping down, this is tensioning that rubber band. So if someone has sciatica, this will often sort of recreate some of that numbness, tingling, or pain along that track. So one of the first things that we can do to alleviate some of that symptom is to help that rubber band move a little bit better without stretching it to create more symptoms. So what you want to do is a nerve glide. So step 1 is learning how to do this with kicking the leg up and pulling your head back at the same time. Then you will do the opposite of head down and foot down simultaneously. So rather than stretch the nerve, we're gliding it. Now, one thing you can do at the top, as you pull your head back, you can bring the toes back. And then as you come back down, head down, point the toes down like this. Something like this, you want to go nice and slow through these cycles, maybe about 5 seconds on the way up and the way down. But if you're dealing with sciatica, and this is right for you, when you get done with about 5 to 10 of these, you should get up and you should feel less pain. This should be something that alleviates your symptoms. If so, you can start doing this multiple times throughout the day. But what we're doing here is we're gliding that nerve. And what happens is that when you perform that hamstring stretch and then dropping down, what position are you in? Your head's down, your foot's back. Yes, you're stretching the hamstring, but you're also stretching that sciatic nerve. And stretching nerves creates more irritation often. So a hamstring stretch sounds logical because you're having pain many times that radiates down your leg. But that's actually the last thing you want to do because we don't want to irritate the nerve by stretching it more. So we're going to say no to hamstring stretching and yes to nerve gliding. Now, the second thing that we're going to do to help alleviate sciatica, for many people who are dealing with sciatica because of a bulging disc, laying on your stomach can help alleviate that tension. So if you're someone who getting up and walking throughout your day or doing different movements, you're having some of that pain that starts in the glute and maybe even radiating down the leg, I want you to try this as a test. I want you to lay on your stomach for a few minutes. And while you're doing this, I want you to take some big breaths in and out. And every time you exhale, I want you to think about your stomach and your spine sort of drifting down towards the bed into a little bit of extension. So every inhale, as you exhale, let this just drift down to the bed. Don't push your stomach down, but just let it relax on back down. And after about 2 minutes or so, I want you to stand up. And if you feel better with less sciatica-like symptoms, that shows you that, again, potentially the cause of your sciatic nerve irritation is a bulging disc. And this is something that you can do throughout your day proactively to help create less irritation. So a lot of times people will have irritated discs because of a flexion problem. So by laying in a little bit of extension, we can help the disc almost sort of move back into a better position with less irritation on that nerve. So this is step 2. Step 3 for alleviating sciatic nerve pain is going to be learning how to move a little bit differently and not push into the movement trigger that irritates that nerve in the first place. And I could give you the best exercises in the world, but until you move a little bit differently and don't push into that movement trigger, it's not going to get any better. Now, think about it like this. If you have sciatic nerve pain, what happens when you bend over and let your back round to pick something off the ground? You can see her back is not in a very good supported position. If she lifts like this, does that recreate pain? And does that recreate your sciatic symptoms if you do it once, if you do it a couple times? Now, if that is you, what that shows you is that, again, this is probably something that's coming from the back. And if you move differently, you'll have less irritation of that nerve. What I want you to think about is making these movements more hip dominant. We want to keep the spine in a brace neutral position. So first off, you'll think about stiffening the core a little bit. And I want you to move about your hips. So push your butt back. As you drop down, you can see her spine is staying in a better position. Now, as she gets down there, she can even bend her knees a little bit to actually set it down. But you can see keeping this flat back position can help support the spine and limit that irritation of the sciatic nerve. Because if she lets her back round, so round that back right here, that rounding position right here is going to take the muscles basically out of the equation. They're no longer supporting the spine, and you're transferring load onto the passive tissues like your discs and your facets and the other ligaments, which can irritate that sciatic nerve. So just adopting a more neutral spinal posture is now all of a sudden allowing those low back muscles to support the spine. You're more stable here and less irritation for your sciatic nerve. So this is how you want to be able to lift something off the ground. And again, guys, I could give you the best exercise regimen in the world, but until you understand the movements that you do throughout your day that irritate and aggravate your symptoms, and you avoid them by moving a little bit differently, you won't actually create a situation where you can let that nerve calm down and you can build back resiliency. Now, if even bending over is painful, one thing that can be helpful, set that weight down real quick. To bend over to help with this is you can take your hands and push them into your thighs. So if you push into your thighs real hard and then sort of hinge back, so push your butt back, but slide your hands down, but keep pushing into your thighs. Do you feel how supported your core is there? When you push your hands into your thighs, you stiffen your core muscles a little bit more, then you can grab the weight with a hand and then stand back up. So that's a way that you can learn to bend forward with a more supported spine by just pushing your hands into your thigh. This is something I learned from Dr. Stuart McGill. He calls this the shortstop squat. But learning how to hinge like this can be very helpful for sciatic nerve pain. All right, guys, so those are our 3 tips right now that you can use to help solve sciatic nerve pain and not make it any worse. So our number 1 tip is to avoid stretching your hamstring. You go with nerve glides instead. You can try laying on your stomach to see if that helps calm down some of your symptoms, and also moving a little bit different, making your movements more hip-centric and less back-centric. I hope this is something that can help kickstart your healing process from sciatic nerve pain, and you can have more pain-free days ahead of you. Again, thank you to Stephanie for being my model today. Until next time, guys, happy squatting.
They say that energy flows where attention goes, so I pay no mind. Why waste my time with all these negative cats scratching? So caught up in their egos, these people have lost.